Hey, and welcome to Out of Hiding, a podcast where we focus on growing in God by seeking His truth. Hosted by Dan Morrow and David Flores.
Oh yeah, yeah. I really am. Sometimes I think it's more for me. Like people are like, "Oh, you're," I'm like, "You're." I love the podcast. I'm like, I love it. Like, I think it does more for me than for anybody else because I love to just listen and hear what they say and really take it in and implement some of the things into my life.
This podcast truly has been kind of a miracle, to be honest. I think David hit me up on a Monday.
Yeah.
I want to do a podcast. Come on, let's do a podcast. And I just said, okay, let's do it. I think the following Monday or Tuesday we recorded the first episode.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
It was just quick. There wasn't much thought put into it. There wasn't much effort. And the reason I'm saying all this is because I think a lot of times the things of God are just easy. And they're laying right in front of you.
For sure.
And it's just up for you to see it, you know.
It's not like you wanted one more thing to do.
Right? I don't need any more things to do. But this has been easy.
Right.
And it's been fun. But
seems like you're busier now that you sold your business than you were before.
I definitely feel that way. Yeah, it's a different kind of busy too.
Yeah.
It's much more emotional.
Yeah.
Emotionally draining and mentally, and which mental the game was big in construction too, but just different. But a lot of fun.
Oh, you can definitely tell you're enjoying it for sure. I mean, it's
Pull
awesome.
that a little bit closer to you. There you go. And you can loosen this little screw right here and spin it if you need it. Just kind of keep it out.
To be. Yeah.
So, Mr. Josh Setzer.
Yes, sir.
Man, I'm glad to have you on.
Thank you for having me, both of you. Appreciate you.
We don't really have a format.
Yeah.
I know you probably listened to an episode or two.
Mm-hmm.
We call it Out of Hiding because I think everybody has had something they hide from themselves.
Right.
Maybe hide from God, maybe hide from the world. I don't know. But I think as Christians, and God operates in truth, and if you want to overcome something, put some light on it.
Right.
And that's kind of the premise of this podcast is just to let other believers share how God has revealed in Himself to you. And so that's our thing today.
Yeah.
What do you think, David?
Sounds good to me.
So you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. Well, my name is Josh Setzer. I've been at Radiant Church for 4 years now. I've known Pastor Adam since I think he first came to Canton. And, we grew up. I mean, we played basketball together and just kind of grew into a friendship. And I wanted to come over. I wanted to do church with a friend. And that's what I decided. I'm married this November. Actually be 30 years to Christy.
Golly, 30 years, man. You're old.
I didn't realize you were that old.
30 years. 30 years. I have 5 kids. I have 3 beautiful daughter-in-laws, a son-in-law. I have 6 grandchildren and 1 on the way. So very, very full life. Very blessed, man, for sure.
That's awesome.
For sure. I mean, and then when you first asked me to do this, I was like, man, I don't know. Is that really for me? Do I really want to get, vulnerable and emotional on
a format like
correct,
this? Yeah.
We've talked. So much easier to talk to one-on-one or a group of people, something like this. It's like, but because of what God's brought me through, I was like, you know what? I think it's.
So what's God doing in your life right now? Like right today, where are you at? What are you?
I'm actually in a better place than I've ever been in my life. In every aspect of my life, but definitely spiritually. I've always had this thing I've pushed off wanting to get too involved in, say, church, or I know maybe that sounds horrible, but too close to God because of the fear of what He's going to ask me to do. I was told from a very young age that I was going to be a pastor. I'm like, I ain't going to be no pastor. Got me messed up. Who wants to do that?
Yeah.
And
you got to be crazy to do that.
Yeah. So, but I love where I'm at, and I love where God's taken me because I feel like He's breaking some of these things off of me and releasing me into things so I can do more, and not worried about what's happened in the past, and just let God use me for whatever it is that He wants to use. And that's where I love where I'm at in Radiant Church. I love seeing people. I love greeting people. I love seeing what God's doing in other people's life and letting Him just use me. And so I think that's the most impactful thing right now that I'm most excited about is that I'm ready for say, God, what do you need me to do?
So, one of the things you've recently done, you're a business owner now.
Mm-hmm.
How are you liking that?
I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, I've worked out at Lake Fork since 2005. I worked for a developer, and a couple years ago I got my real estate license, and then last summer the developer asked me if I wanted to buy him out. So my sons and I partnered up and we bought him out.
Heck yeah.
And so I absolutely love it. But I love people. I get to love meeting new people and doing things. So we're building houses. We're selling lots.
So how did you come to the conclusion that that was what God had for you? If you don't mind me asking, I don't want to pry.
No.
But I think one of the most frequent things I hear is, well, I don't know if that's God or if that's me. How do I navigate that? Was it something I ate last night or is it God? So if you don't mind, elaborate.
Right. So you talking about how I know God for this business?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you talk to God about it? How did you trust that, because buying a business is a big thing. It's a life change,
Correct. You go from working for somebody to being your own boss.
Yeah.
Well, I think I put in so much work there that the developer that I worked for loved me as family. And so he made me an offer that you could say was too good to be true.
Oh, he's the Godfather.
Correct. Yeah, right? And he loved my family, and so he gave us this offer, and but it was doing exactly what I love to do right now, and I've been doing it, but he made it to where it's a step, but it wasn't such a huge step that I was risking so much, and everything just fell in line. God was right there through the whole thing. I mean, God started me off when I first started working for them in 2005. We saw an ad in the paper, and me and Lee went out there for an interview, and we took a job.
Wow.
And when I first started working out there, I was like, oh, we ain't going to make it out of here. This place is crazy,
So you were, 26, 27 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Just saw an ad in the paper.
Went out there and just for a job interview, and they hired us right then. And went out there and got trained, and first customer walked in, I got my first sale.
Heck
I
yeah.
was like, dude, like this is pretty cool. And like I said, get to meet people. That's the thing, is you get to meet different people and different stages of their life, and it's a lot of fun. But I think as it goes, it's to answer your question, how do I know it's God, is because of how easy it was. As I wasn't fighting. It was no huge obstacles. Yeah, there's going to be some obstacles, but it was total peace about the decision that we're making, because Pastor Adam talked about this too, because I still want to do things with the church and do things, and how does all that work? That's because I've been doing that. It's nothing's different. The only thing different is I own it. I'm still working the same hours. I'm still doing the same job. It's just now it's all on me. I don't have somebody else to call the boss. I've got to make it happen.
You got to call yourself.
But I'm still doing what I love to do, and it gives me the freedom to do other stuff and to try to help other people as well.
So how do you, as a business owner, what helps you decide how much time to give ministry and how much time to put to the business? Is there conflict there, or is there not? I owned a business for a long time. I know how I kind of did it. I'd like to get your perspective on that.
Sure. With that, as long as one doesn't take away from the other or hurt the other. So with business, I want to be in as much as in church. I can't go so far into that where I neglect my responsibilities to the company that I purchased. But I can't let my business consume me to a place where I don't live life, and I don't enjoy the things that I enjoy. I enjoy church. I love serving the church. I want to see what God's taking me to. So being able to have that balance, that one's not dominant, because you know how it is too with church. You can get burned out with that too. You can go so far and volunteer for everything, and then eventually
I don't want anything.
I don't want anything to do with church.
I'm done.
And that's no fun either. And so keeping that balance and knowing. But you have to learn to be honest with yourself too. I mean, to know your limits and not pretend that you're something that you're not. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that I know who I am. I know what I want. I know where I'm
Have
going.
you always known that? Or
No.
is this something?
Oh, heck no, man. Come on, man.
So when did you start to get a handle on that?
Oh, jeez.
I like to do the timeline. Can you give me the timeline? Take me back to the beginning of like your start, or like before you found Christ, and then take me back. Give me the timeline.
So I believe I was baptized when I was about 7 years old, and my grandfather and my grandmother were pastors, missionaries. They traveled to Philippines, Africa. My grandmother was healed in the hospital. She wrote a book. I actually have a record that my grandfather made. I want to see if you can help me put it on like a CD or something, an old record.
Yeah.
But they were big into that. So my father kind of followed suit and became a pastor. And so I grew up in the church.
Okay.
But seeing a lot of the stuff, that's where it kind of, I don't want that part.
Where did you grow up in church at?
California.
California.
Mm-hmm. Born in Pomona. We moved to Texas when I was about, I think, 11 years old. Moved to over in Quitman. That's where we moved to. And so my dad was a pastor in California, but when he moved here, he stopped and just started a business. And that's all he did, was just try to make it for himself. And so the whole church thing just kind of had a sour taste in my mouth. There's a whole lot of story to that too. I mean, there's a big story to that. I don't even know if you have enough time to go into everything. Because of what God's done for us, what He's brought us through, where we've been to where we're at now. There's a lot of years, a lot of pain and tears and suffering and things. Some self-inflicted, some not.
Yeah.
But the Christian journey, I've gone through ups and downs. I mean, there's a part of my life where I questioned that God even existed.
Yeah.
Just because of the things that I saw. I got to see some people that say they're people of God that didn't, at the end of it, didn't really act like they were people of God. And so it was just kind of those struggle that I had to find it for myself. And I had to just find my own. And I think that's the biggest thing for each and every one of us, is that we look to people here on earth and we don't continue to look to God, our Heavenly Father. And like, so what's a lot of the struggles I had is I looked to people on here on earth and not to God, and let God lead me and guide me.
Gotcha. Not to pry too much, but was it your parents that made you think maybe this isn't what it's all cracked up to be?
So we're talking about religion? Mm-hmm. So with that, so my dad brought us to California, and I went to Texas. He started his own business, and I worked with him. I didn't really have a childhood, all right? So from the time I was 12, all I had to do was work. My dad would wake me up and say, hey, your sisters can't eat unless you go work. And so I'd work midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, then go do a show. I was homeschooled, but it was no school. By the time I went to high school, I could barely read. I shouldn't even pass high school. If it wasn't for sports, I probably wouldn't have. And so it was all about business. I really didn't have a dad in those years. It was more of a friend. We just worked together. We traveled all over the place.
So when you talk about a show, what kind of show?
It's a gift show. Like, we made ceramics and candles and stuff like that, and we just manufacture them, and then we take them and we would just go sell them.
So trade shows.
Yep.
Gotcha.
First Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how we came to Canton. It's because of First Monday.
Oh, wow.
That's what brought us over to Canton. It's because of First Monday. I mean, shoot, I started my own business when I was in high school and had my own booth out there and everything. But, and then my dad kind of he didn't want to do anything unless do it himself. You couldn't make any money unless you're your own boss. That's his philosophy. And then he just started making really, really bad decisions, and he eventually started a company and basically promising people big rewards for their investment, and it was all a fraud, and we all got caught in that. But everybody he was doing business with were church people that I could tell you names that they're on TVs, and they're traveling the world. People all over the place. There's a total of like 1,700 people that my dad was in business with, and basically he was running a Ponzi scheme, and I got caught up in it. But all these people that would come meet my dad, and they would say, God sent me here. God told me to come here. God told me to give your dad my money because your dad's going to help our church be self-sufficient. We're not going to depend on tithes and offering. We can use the money to build the kingdom of God. And so after the government came in and shut my dad down.
What cautionary tale do you get from that? When you see someone come in with that kind of zeal and faith in a man, God told me to put my money here. What kind of alarm bells go off now?
All over the place. All over the place. I'm very skeptical now.
Yeah.
Like, it's tough because I don't want to be too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I also got to be honest, like, the pain is there. I mean,
Yeah.
it happened, And so
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of things would have happened if I would have just listened to God more,
Mm-hmm.
And not, like I said, rely on my father, my earthly father. And so,
So were you very like confused? I don't know if this is the right terminology. Were you very just confused because people like maybe you thought this was the right thing because people were saying those things to you and you were I'm confused a little bit. Sorry.
That's okay. So let me back up. So in 2000, my dad started a company, and he was working with a few Christian organizations. And basically, you say, "Hey, I'm gonna go buy this product. You give me the money, and we're gonna split the profits." Okay. It was here in Texas. Well, we moved back to California, and it grew. And he kept getting investors to invest into his company and promised them big rewards. But everybody was with the church, and so it was churches, missionaries, everybody. He was just giving and then the word just spread. It was just everybody was talking in that go see Greg. Well, I confronted my dad and said something's not right. And and I'm be careful because some of the story is not for me to tell. It's my story, is my story, but other people's, other people's.
Whatever you're comfortable
trying
with.
I'm comfortable with anything. But it's like I don't care because I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured out what was going on, and my dad said, "Yes, we're not doing anything. We're doing stuff that's not right, but I want to fix it. I need you to help me." And so I stuck around to try to help him fix it, but it was all a lie. He was just kept.
Dad was manipulating you.
Correct. He kept manipulating me to get me to hang around because I was good at what I did, and I was talking to people and getting people to, buy into what we were doing. And so I should have stepped up, and I should have stood up to my father and said, "No, we're not going to do this anymore. We're done." And so that was my decision. Even though my father, I was like 24 years old at the time. I was a young man. I look back on it, and I give myself a lot of grace now, but I didn't for a long time. But he shouldn't have led me down that path.
Say, you did exactly what you were trained to do.
Correct.
Yeah, but say going
Correct.
back to
How
when you
can
were
you be
11.
mad at that? You wouldn't be
Correct.
mad at your kid if you did that.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. But to one of your questions, how did you finally realize to be honest with yourself? As I had to be honest with myself and be like, "Hey, you still made that decision. You still chose. I had a choice. Just like our choice that we have a choice to believe in God or not. We have a choice to accept Christ as our Savior or not. It's our choice. We can go down this path and have all this hurt and not accept Christ, and where we're going to be? We're going to be in hell. That's our choice.
Yeah.
And so it was that same kind of choice and I chose to go this route. So when the government came in, hit them hard. They arrested my mom, my dad, my aunt, my uncle.
What was the time frame on that?
It was November 18th, 2003.
So it wasn't long after you got started.
3 years. 3 years. It wasn't long.
Okay.
And see, I had another business. It's called the Iron Garden, and I traveled all over the country, over the world, and bought and sold stuff. It was a real company. So that's all I saw was what I was doing. And then I finally figured out what my dad was doing, and I confronted him on it, and he told me the truth. And what got me to stick around was his word, but he also had attorneys that were lying to me. And it was just
it was an elaborate.
Correct. And then when the government came in and hit him hard, bam, all these people that said, "Hey, God told me to come do business with your dad," were like, "How dare he?" And were just ready to just crucify. Out of 1,700 people, only one man ever called me and said, "Hey, I don't know what happened, but God told me to do that. I think he was trying to teach me a lesson." And hey, that's on me.
Wow.
One person.
Wow.
And so with that,
Wow.
with all that pain, because seeing what these people are saying, and then this, like, is God even real? I mean, this dude, I can give you a name, and this guy's just this big missionary. He saves thousands of people a year, brings thousands of people, and he said that God told him to. Like, this is, I would think, in my mind, this guy's close to God. He's following God's direction in his life. Like, man, is this real? And those are the questions that I had. And then in 2004, They offered my dad a plea deal. He declined it, and part of that plea deal was, we'll leave your son alone. And so when they came in, the government came in 2003, I tried to help. I did whatever. I signed over whatever. I worked with them, did them everything. Well, then in 2004, because my dad wouldn't take a deal and end it, they indicted me. They came after me. And so I was left with a choice. Do I fight it?
At this time, are you married? And
oh, yeah. I've been married, since 2000. in 95 I got married.
So you're married and you have kids?
You're married 8 years at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So married, have kids?
Married, 4 kids.
4 kids.
4 kids. So I have to make a choice. Do I fight? And we took advice from different people that gone through some stuff and counsel, and I had to make the tough decision that I had to take a deal. So that meant I had to get up on the stand and testify against my father.
Wow.
And I spent, I think it was 2 days or more on the stand, testifying against him, telling him all his dirty secrets. And that's it's tough, as a young man, sitting there and looking at your dad saying, but I had to make a choice what was best for my wife and my kids. And took a 5-year deal, and knew I was going to go to prison. And that was the tough part. I've never been in trouble in my life. We grew up with my wife. We didn't party. We didn't do anything. We were never in trouble. And I'm right in the middle of it, because of the decision that I made. And so, went through that, testified. We had a 5-year deal. My dad ended up, after his sentencing, he got 40 years in prison. 40 years in prison. And, we can go through all different things. It's like 40 years is a lot. What he did was wrong, and so we went to sentencing. We prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and we got there, and the judge listened and gave me 2 years. 2 years in it was a prison camp, Texarkana, it wasn't difficult, wasn't easy. The hardest part is being away from my wife and kids. So I ended up doing about 18 months in a federal prison camp. And, and then I think November 11th, 2008, I got out. And then I went right back to work out at the Holiday Village and working for the developer, because I was working him. I worked for him while I was going through all this. And he had my back the whole time. And when I got out, he's like, come on back. That ain't know who you are. Wow. And so they stuck beside me, and that was huge for me, because I was like, man, what am I going to do? Ain't nobody want to hire me. And there was a lot of shame, because it's like.
Oh, man, yeah.
How was that? Going to that shame, how was it? How hard was it to get back into like church and all that after all that?
So it wasn't too hard after that. It was actually, to be honest with you, that was probably the best 18 months for my life. It actually freed me of a lot of stuff. It gave me more time. I had to slow down. I really had to see God. I really asked him tough questions, honest questions, like...
You had plenty of time.
Who am I? What am I? Where am I going? What am I doing? Why am I here? Because all those things. Every time we go through things tough, it's like, why God? Why God? Dude, I can remember a couple days before I went in, sitting on my porch, having a cooler full of just sitting there soaking my sorrows away, thinking, why God? Just please, I'll do anything, just begging, and I just realized that, hey, these are the choices. These are decisions that you made. Just own it, live it, and move forward. Don't worry about where you've been. Let's go where we're going. So that's why I had to get honest with myself. Is who am I? What am I? Am I this person? No. Did I make a bad mistake? Yes. And so, but God can still use me. And it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle for years since, the different things that I've dealt with from that. From that shame, from that guilt, because it's still there, but it's not I don't want to dictate where I'm going any longer. That's where I'm at now, is I'm finally at a place where I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not my father. I'm not going to be my father, because my father knew the scriptures from front to back. He could tell you where it is, what's the location of it, and everything. And it always blew me away, because he'd be able to just spit off people, and he used the Bible to get people to invest money in this company. And I got to see that. And so I was like, I don't even want to read the Bible. I don't even want to know the scriptures like that.
You associated that with pain of deceit and lie and manipulation and
Correct.
oh man,
Correct. And so a lot of different things I've had to get through. You know, a lot of talks with a lot of different people. Me and Pastor Adam have spent hours and hours talking. We've talked, you know.
Oh yeah,
and you know, and that's the thing is for me is I just be honest. Like, man, the pain's real. It's okay. Where I've been, it's okay. You know, it's like, but look at the life that I have now. I don't deserve where I'm at. It's God. God's grace, God's love, God's compassion for me. That's the only reason I have what I have today.
There's a huge restoration story in your story, Josh, that you don't hear a lot of people go that far and get that far back. It's truly a miracle.
100%.
Well, you know, I'm just an outsider looking in, and I don't know everything, but
yeah, there's a lot more in that scope, and like I said, we can sit here for hours and hours and talk about everything, the stuff that I saw, the stuff that I witnessed, the stuff that I went through, and stuff that my family's gone through, my wife, you know, stuff that she's had to go through. I mean, she stuck by my side through a lot of stuff that she should have never, ever had to stick around, never been through, you know, because, yeah, I put her in a lot of these situations, and she never, ever.
How surprised was she when crap hit the fan?
Yeah, shocked.
Ooh.
Everybody was.
Yeah.
Everybody was shocked. It was like, what is going on? And everybody's looking at me.
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, we're going to get out of this? We're going to get...
Well, yes and no, but be honest with you, I knew what the truth was. And so we fought, but I'm like, I know what the truth is. And that was the toughest thing for me with my dad, is that he would never take responsibility. You know, my dad died in prison, 2018, I believe. And that's some of the other regrets that I have, is that I was so resentful towards him. I would
Why?
never.
I'm just
kidding. Right. Right. Why would you be so resentful? You know, but I would never. Since from 2006 to 2018, I never went and saw him. Never went and saw him. I wouldn't let my kids go see him. Wouldn't let my kids talk to him on the phone. You know, because it's like, you're just a liar. And so, but looking back on it, I let that pain and you can use the word hatred. That hatred in my heart towards him, I didn't allow God to use that to actually release some stuff. I should have said, okay, hey, let's go see him. And yeah, it was been a huge expense for us to go do it, but let's go do that. Let's go confront him. Let's go talk to him eye to eye, man to man. You know, because to be honest with you, all I wanted to do is kick his butt. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if he ever gets out and say, I just
Beat
for all
him
the
down.
pain
Yeah,
he's caused me
yeah.
and my family, there was just so much anger towards him. And I was just like, I ain't giving you no time of day. So I wish I'd done that different. You know, I wish I would have sought God more through that, and I tried to handle it myself, and kind of went and met him and talked to him, and because I think that down deep, I know he loved the Lord. I know, you know, he was doing stuff in prison from what I was heard, you know, witnessing to people, and I hope that he changed, and I hope he repented, and I pray and hope that one day I'm going to see him in heaven. And I know when I see him, if I see him in heaven, we're not going to care about all this crap. You know, it's going to be done with, because we're with God. So it's still, you know, I wish I'd done that different, but yeah, you can't change it. So, but you can just go forward.
So how do you get past the hurt and the resentment, Josh? I mean, my goodness, having those feelings and not wanting to see him, I can't find you at fault in anything in that. And the injustice of being a kid, starting out at work that young, first of all, there's a lot of, I would call it brainwashing that goes on.
Yeah.
How do you get past that resentment? What was your process there?
It's a long process. And finally, I just giving it to God, you know, and not trying to take it all on my own, and not trying to deal with everything myself, because there was so much. There was so much. And, you know, because it was, you know, when you go through and you look at everything, holy moly, it's like there was a lot there. And it's more than one person can just take on their own. But it's the same thing. I wouldn't have been there if I'd have sought God in the beginning, right? And put all my faith in God, not man. And so now it's sort of like, God, lead me. God, help me. I'm struggling here. I give it to you. I ask you for forgiveness. I ask you for your grace. And he's constantly giving me time and time again. And that's the only way that I'm like that I've gotten through and that I'm getting through it is because of God, because of what he's done for me. It's time in and time out. Because it's not just that. I've made multiple mistakes, even after, after what God's
human.
done,
We're all
I
human,
still
yeah.
just mess up, and don't meet the mark. And he's constantly there showing me grace and compassion and forgiving me and still blessing me.
So what about this journey is such a profound lesson that you'll always thank God for? The way I'm hearing you, you're still thankful in all this. So what are you thankful for? What did God show you through all this that you're just thankful for that you'll never forget?
I'm thankful for him. I'm thankful for him sending his son to die on the cross, that I know that this is just a small time that we're here. And I'm thankful for the opportunity that I still have to help people come to know him, that I get that opportunity, that I didn't go so far and so hard in my heart so much that he can't use me. And I know it's not possible, but in my mind it is. God would never use me.
Right, yeah.
Why would God ever want to use somebody like me? And so thankful that he never gave up on me. That he kept. Every time I turned around, he's right there.
So you talked about the shame. When did you recognize you had let go of the shame of this?
Oh, I suppose it's been a few years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been recent. So, like I said, God's done so many things for me. Like when I got out of prison, I wanted to be a real estate agent. After working with that, and of course getting a real estate license with the felony, it's pretty tough.
Oh yeah,
pretty tough.
You got to be honest with them.
Got to be honest, and getting those letters. You don't have the character that we're looking for. You don't have the character. You don't have the character. You don't have the character. And finally saying, we accept you. And, seeing those kind of things, that just those, I'd say small things, but huge things to me is like just being able to do that, being able to get my license and not being told no, but I never gave up. It's the same thing. He just never gave up on me. And he just loved me through so many different things in my life. And it's just, we have a marriage because of God. You know, and there's a whole nother story there of what God's done for me in my marriage as well. So, I don't know if it answers your question or not.
I mean, in a general way, yeah. It definitely does.
This is a weird question. What is life like after you get out? Like getting with your kids and your wife, and like, are you explaining to are your kids old enough to explain it to them? Are you just treading lightly? Like, what is that?
No. So we were honest with my kids from the get go. This is what's going on. But let's see. It was, I think, the twins when I went in 18 years ago. So they were 4. Solomon was 6. Joshua was 8.
So they were really small.
So, and it was, at the time, it was 18 months. And so,
they went from 4 to 6.
Yeah. And so it wasn't as huge. They remember. They came and saw me every weekend. Christy made sure she brought them and see me. But getting out, it was the hardest part was just like, what do I do? Where do I go? Does everybody know? Is everybody going to be judging me? And then I finally just, I don't care. And so I'd say probably 2010. 2010-ish.
Did you get some judgment?
Oh, yes. Oh, shoot, yes, man. I've had people out there try to get me fired. Well, do you know what he's done? Do you know what he's done? Like, everybody knows. I'm not, and I talk to people. I'm not ashamed of it. I'll talk to anybody about it. This is what I did. This is where I went. This is what I've been through. This is where I'm at now, and this is where I'm going. If you're going to judge me, that's on you. That's not on me.
Yeah, that's
I've done
awesome.
Everything everybody's asked me to do.
How long did it take to get to that?
That I would say, so when I got out in 2008, I worked as a salesperson, and then
Oh, it wasn't an easy year either.
No.
That's when the real estate market and homes.
I got out of prison and killed it. I was just murdering. I was just out there just hustling it up, and I was selling and selling. I got out in August of 2008. August 11, 2008. July of 2009, they show up. My bosses, the developer, shows up and says, "Hey, you want to manage this place for me? I'm not even out of prison for a year. They want to hand me the keys. Not just that, we're going to offer you something because you're such a good salesperson. We can't afford to take you off the line. So what we want you to do is we want you to manage this place and want you to keep selling. So you get to manage your own sales. You get to make your own deals. You don't really have anybody oversight." So they gave me the keys, so I got to start making money as a manager and making money as a salesperson. And they've never, this company's been doing land bills development since the 60s. And so they turned it over to me, and that was huge. So those confidence started building with me. And so as those years came on, it's like, you know what? It is what it is. This is where I've been, and God's blessing me. Things are going good. I don't have to be ashamed of it. A lot of people like that honesty. They like that truthfulness. They say, hey, it is what it is, but at least you're not ashamed of it. You're just owning it, taking it head on, and moving forward. Mm-hmm. But I'd say a few years afterwards, it took me to get there. It wasn't at first. At first I didn't know if I want to go back because I knew people knew.
Yeah, there had to be some part of you that just wanted to run to an island and maybe start a new life.
I wanted to move different places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I graduated from Canton. And so when all this hit, everybody knew.
Oh, but Canton people, they don't gossip.
No.
Not at all. You didn't have anything to worry.
Nothing at all.
You're clear.
Yeah, but we had a lot of people here that loved us.
Yeah.
And they knew, my dad burned a lot of bridges. And a lot of people here knew that my dad wasn't the best person for me to take advice from. A lot of people try to talk to us and give us advice. And so a lot of people here knew. And so, but we've built a name for ourselves. And it's not my dad's name. It's our name. It's my name. It's my kid's name. It's not his. And so whatever he's done, that's not on us.
Yeah, it's not none of your
none
of your problem.
It's us. So, and that's what I love about life. It's like it's so much. It's tough at times, but you get to make it. God's given us so much, but He gave us our free will that we get to choose and decide what we want to do and where we want to go, what path we want to take, and those are our choices. We can accept them, we don't. We can choose to lie, we can choose not to lie. We have those choices. And so, we can look at, I think that's what me has just changed the way I look at everything. It's just everything is, you try to look at everything as a gift, because I'm not promised anything, but what we've been through is, can't get any worse than that, And so we lost a granddaughter and almost 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago, 2021. And that was a lot of pain. That was a ton of pain. And so, but God's been right there through everything. Mm-hmm. And so, it's not all roses and everything in your life, but it's still, we're still here, and enjoying it and living it, and God's blessing us.
So what do you tell the person right now listening that might have had some injustice or some unfairness or maybe made some bad decisions and they've gotten themselves in a bind? How do you tell them, what's your advice?
First off, foremost is be honest with yourself. Be you, be honest with yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, you're not going to be honest with anybody else. If you can't look yourself in the mirror and call out your own BS, then that's on you. But you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and to be honest with yourself. Your past is your past. There's nothing you can do about it. We all make mistakes. And God is not asking you to be perfect. God sent one person to be perfect, and He did that already. Mm-hmm. We want to seek Him with everything we got. We want to grow closer to Him and with everything we have. And if you're carrying that shame and that guilt or whatever, you've just got to give it to Him. Move past it. There's no reason for it. Lay it at the cross. Jesus died for us, man. It's over. We don't have to carry anything. We don't have to carry the burden of the guilt or anything like that. We can just give it to Him and we can move on. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, it was I kept carrying it because I wouldn't forgive myself for what I did. I had a lot of guilt for what I did, and I get emotional talking about it. But it is what it is. It's like, but I had to just finally say, you know what? I made a mistake.
Just a human.
I'm just human.
Yeah.
And God still loves me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's such a relief when you finally just grasp it.
Mm-hmm.
Fully grasp God's love for you.
I've hung out with you guys a lot, and I see your family. You're a close family.
Yeah, very close.
And I'd like you to share just a little bit, going through all that you've gone through. How do you keep a family close through all that?
I think it's because of that. You really appreciate, with Christy and my kids, it's like we want to be close. We love each other. It's first and foremost. My kids were homeschooled, and we got to do a lot of trips together, and we grew up and all grew up. I mean, think about it. Me and my wife was 23 and I was 24 and we had 4 kids. I mean, I'm 47 and my youngest are 22. So we kind of grew up with the kids too.
Yeah,
and so we do a lot of things together that we all enjoy, but the one thing that that thing is at that core of that family is that we all love each other and we actually enjoy being around each other. Now, granted, there's times that you don't get along with your family, but we wanted to put something on our kids as saying, a family's important. We don't have to just grow up together and everybody go their separate ways. Now, but we're not going to manipulate the situation just because we want to try to control it and keep everybody together. We want to be able to be together because everybody enjoys. We do something every Friday. It's called Family Friday. Whoever can show up, shows up. We play cards, we hang out, we talk, we have a good time. But if you want to come, come. If you don't come. It's okay.
Yeah.
And so, but as the kids have grown, they become adults. They've seen the things that Christy and I have gone through and the things that we've had to go through. And so they have a lot of respect for what we went through to get to where we're at. And so it's not just kids, they're adults. They're grown people making their own life. And so it's so much fun to walk through life and go through life with your family.
I read a question somebody mentioned to me. They were saying, I just got married, and my wife has her traditions, with her family, but he has his traditions with his family, and they both can't get along, and they, they're going back and forth, like, oh, I want to do this one. What is how do you, as a young couple, like you have kids, and you Christy had her family, y'all, what's the best way to move forward, when somebody's like, hey, we spend Christmas with my mom, but the husband's like, well, we spend Christmas with my parents and grandparents. And
that's the toughest part is everybody has their own thing. And that's one thing I love that we try not to do. We try to make it to where our times together are convenient for everybody. Like right now, we don't even, but Christmas, I think we did Christmas after the New Year's this past year. Because there are so many different things. I think the problem is that we all put too much stress on ourselves.
For sure.
First and foremost, and like our kids know, is you guys get married, you're your own family. You make your own
traditions.
Make your own traditions. They're not to be mine or that, but if you want to spend time with her side of the family or his side of the family, cool. Let's coordinate a time that works out for everybody. As long as the hardest thing is for people is not take offense.
Yeah.
We get offended so easy. And, well, I want this because this is what we've always done. Well, you know what? Change. Suck it up. It's like, hey, the kids grow. Everything else changes, and it's tough. It's especially tough for women to let that go. To say, I want my kids here. I want this. I want that. This is what we've always done. And, but.
I've never had that problem. I mean, I'm blessed with Lacey. We've done our own thing, and it's worked perfect. But I see a lot of new couples get together, and it's like, they're fighting over it. One couple will go here, the other one goes there. It's like, what are y'all doing?
Make your own. Build your family together. If you want to spend Christmas morning with your spouse and your kids, do that for you. Build that for them, and then you make time for other places. And you might hurt some people's feelings. But you know what? Build your family. There's no reason for separation. There's no reason to go one place and the other. It's like, do it together and then try to find those times to go to other families. When Christy and I got married, we went. Whatever she wanted to do, I was cool with it. I didn't care. Mom and Dad wanted us on Christmas morning. Sorry, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I've got a wife and kids now. We gotta do what's best for us.
It's good. The reason I asked that is because big family man. You got a big family, so maybe somebody listening can hear that and take it.
Thanksgiving's. I don't. We do the turkey trot, and sometimes we don't even get together. Big thing on Thanksgiving or Christmas. We might do it before or after, and
that's okay.
Yes,
it's okay not to do it on Thanksgiving.
It doesn't have to be on the same day.
Yeah.
Getting together as a family, but I think it helps us that we see each other all the time.
Yeah.
We do life together. We go to church together. We have family Fridays. We have those times together, so it makes it easier for us to not have to have all the other stuff.
Yeah. Let's shift gears for a second.
Okay.
So currently, you kind of head up the ushers.
Yes, sir.
You've talked about your family's told you you're a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think God's got for you there?
I don't know.
I hate to put you on the spot, but I kind of
okay.
don't. I kind of want to hear what you got to say.
I figure it's coming. We've talked.
You've got such an amazing story.
Yeah.
That story, it can't just be for you. You know.
And that's where I'm finally at, is that it's okay. Okay, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then Pastor and I have talked hours and hours and hours about what does the future hold? Where is God leading me? What is He leading me to do? And first and foremost, whatever I do, I want to do with my wife. Because see, when we were growing up, or me and my wife were growing up, I had a lot of resentment towards church. I didn't want to be in church. I didn't want to go to church. Thank God my wife kept my family in church. And so if I'd go, I had a lot of resentment. I didn't want to be here.
And you had an attitude and other things that go along with that.
Gosh, why am I here? 'Cause I didn't want to be here, and I didn't. I did and didn't. It was all this kind of stuff. It's like I'm finally in a place where I want to be here. I don't like missing. I want to be here. I want to be a part of it, and I want to do it with my wife. I want to do church together, and so whatever we do, I want to do it together. Whatever that God has called us to do. If it's something for couples, if it's I don't know. I don't know. But I think the first thing is you got to be willing, and that's where I'm at. Is that what has God called me to do? And am I truly open to it? Yes, I am. If God called me right now and said, hey, I want you to stop what you're doing, I'm going to have you go over here, I'd do it. I would do it. That's where I'm at. This is the first place in my life. First time in my life.
So tell me about, you led Connect class Sunday. You didn't come and ask me. You didn't come and ask Pastor Adam, hey, I need to be leading something. Pastor Adam reached out and said, hey, can you lead this? That's God opening the door in my mind. I don't know how you take that, but how did you, how was that?
So, when he first called, I was like, no, what are you thinking? Well, because to be honest with you, my wife and I had, we were scheduled to play in a couples golf tournament out at the lake. Mm-hmm. And so I actually had it set up to it. We weren't even coming to church. Mm-hmm. I had people covering the ushers. We were going to stay at the lake and then go to this golf tournament and just play in a golf tournament together. Yeah. So when Pastor Adam called and asked, I was like, my first was like, man, I got plans, bro. Like,
get out of here.
What are you doing, man?
Golfing.
And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And I was like, hell. He's like, well, think about it, pray about it, and let me know. I knew right off the rip. I was like, this dude, he got me again. And so I was like, no. What we were going to do is we were going to come and do the Connect class and then just get out and head to the lake. And even if it was just a few minutes before tea time, just get there. But the more I thought about it, I was like, no, we just canceled it. We're like, let's put our whole mind and attention on this and not be worried about doing something else. So we canceled those plans to be there because I knew it was just another step.
It was saying yes to God.
Correct. It's easy for me to sit here and say, I'll do whatever God tells me to do, and then actually say, okay, I'll do whatever God tells me to do, and actually take that step. Yeah. And it's not, listen, I don't want the attention. Mm-hmm. I don't want, it's like, I'm good with sitting in the back. I'm good with helping people find seats. I'm good with just greeting people and doing this. I enjoy it. I love it. It's like I don't have to have anything else. I don't have to be on stage and leading anything, But what does God call me to do? I know He's called me for more, and I've known that for a long time, but I've fought it for so long because I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I don't want to be my father.
Yeah.
And that was
It's a
my
bad
father
image of.
my grandfather was a pastor. My father was a pastor. Why? I'm trying to get away from that. Why do I want to go right back towards that?
Don't repeat history.
Yeah. And so, it's. I love what God's doing at Radiant Church. I love, when I first met Pastor Adam, when he first started church and pastoring here, he didn't very many people.
Yeah.
When I came, there was one service, and the next thing you know, we're at 3. But God's moving here. God's definitely got something going on. I'm feel blessed and honored to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm eager to see what God has planned. I don't know. It's like, am I going to be up on stage teaching one day? I think so. I believe so. I think that's where, I'm not saying a pastor of a church. That's not why I even remotely feel like I want to be a head pastor of a church. But I'm not saying no. I just don't think I don't think that's where he's leading me. But he's definitely leading me in a direction to be able to tell people about what God has done for me and give my testimony, what God's done in my wife and our life and business life and everything that God's brought us through.
Yeah.
Just to be able to share that with people.
It's such a powerful story, man.
It is. It is. I look back on it and I'm like, man, that God is freaking awesome, dude.
I think we were sitting on your porch out at the lake when you kind of told me the real story. Yeah. My jaw hit the floor.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Holy
crap. And that's it's a definitely powerful story, and that I think God's going to use to help people heal, to help people get past those hurts.
He's already using it.
I believe so.
Yeah, he's already using it.
And but He can use it more if I would stop resisting. Because it's only God is going to come after you and come after you and come after you, and He's never going to give up on you. But you eventually have to say, okay. He's not going to make you do anything. He gives us our free will to make our own choices. I'm tired of living to where I don't want to do that, because how many people have I passed in my life that I was too ashamed to even tell them what God's done for me? I wouldn't tell them about the good news. I didn't give them that opportunity to hear Christ through me. And so, hopefully somebody else got to do it, because I missed the mark.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have that anymore. I don't want to have those regrets of saying I'm too ashamed because I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So when Dan asked you to do the podcast, were you fighting that a little bit in your head, or were you like...
No, I was...
You're like, it's time to just...
I was expecting it. He told me, I think a couple months ago, he said, he asked a question, and so I was like, okay. But it's still, even driving over, I'm like, you really want to do this?
I had reservations asking you, because you and I are close friends, and I didn't want it to come across, I want to get you on here. But on the same hand, I did want to get you on here, because I think your story is it illustrates the love and mercy and grace of God
100%.
So much. It's irresistible to me. Like just to see God's done the same kind of thing in my life. Our circumstances are different, but the same amount of restoration.
Right.
And anytime I hear about God's restoration, it excites me, and it's something the whole world needs to hear, because it's real.
Yeah.
It's real, and that was my desire with you, is just to let people see the authentic, real love of God on display.
Correct. And that's what I'm okay with. It's like, I don't want it to be, it's not about me. This is not about me. Yeah, it's my story, but it's not about me. It's about God.
Yeah,
I've made mistakes. I've made decisions, that I shouldn't have made. But
the love of Jesus says, in spite of those decisions, get your heart right. Yep. I'm going to bless you anyway. I'm going to restore what was lost. I'm going to restore what was taken. I'm going to restore relationship that maybe you might not.
You had two paths.
Yeah.
You
could be real bitter
easily.
Oh yeah.
Could have chose the other one,
Easy.
and you were faithful. So
but you see what God's done for so many people. Look at what God did for Paul. Look at what he did, and look at what God used him.
Yeah.
And that's what's like, man, he can get past his past and let God use him. It's not just about, we have to get past what we've been and what we've done to let God use us because of our own guilt. Paul could have easily been like, dude, I'm not worthy of this. I can't do this. Or, no, look at what I've done. Right? But God will use anybody and everybody. And that's what it's like, it's okay. It's okay if you've made a mistake. It's okay if you've told a lie. It's okay if you've done these things. We put levels on sin. God doesn't.
Yeah.
I think you said it really, really well when you said, I just had to own it.
Mm-hmm.
There is some freedom in owning our failure as a human. Because to truly own our failure is to truly depend on Him in a different way.
Right.
So many Christians live trying to depend on themselves to get right first, clean up this, do that, and then approach God.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not the way it works.
No. When you own something, right, you get it, what else is there? When you're telling a lie, you're trying to cover things up. And you're trying to do this. You're trying to
live a different life and not let people know about this.
But when you own it, it's there.
There's
it's
freedom.
Open.
There's freedom
in it. Knowing, hey, nothing more. Mm-hmm. Hey, my life is open. The book is open. I'm not trying to hide anything. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. And so it gives you a lot of peace. Mm-hmm. Of living like that and having a life like that. But as far as where God's going to go, I don't know. I think He's gradually. I think Pastor Adam is doing little by little. I think he's trying to. When he first started with this host thing, I remember talking to him. He's like, "Man, what do you think about this?" I'm like, "No." Yeah. And then eventually, what did he do? He got me up to hosting, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just little by little. Knocking those fears and anxieties away and getting free.
You're good at it.
Yeah,
God's gifted you.
Well, that's the thing is, I'm good with talking 1-on-1, 2-on-2, those kind of things. That's what I love. I love talking with people. But man, what is it about getting in front of a bunch of people? It's like, why are you getting nervous? Same thing. No big deal.
The question I was going to ask you before we started this, when I said I was going to wait. So we both host, and when I host the first time, I'm like, Holy Spirit, just let the words flow out of my tongue, and I feel like it's the Spirit led when I do it the first time, 8 o'clock. The 10 is like I mess up or I the flesh starts to want to take over.
Right.
It's like, okay, you did good. Maybe do this or that or this and that. And I always tell Lacey the 8 o'clock is so good because it's the Spirit, And then the 10 a.m. the flesh starts to, and I see that a lot. Maybe I don't know. I'm also going to that school life, radio,
right.
And so I'm catching it, a lot. But I don't know if you had to deal with that or not either. I mean, you do so good up there; it flows.
I get nervous every time I go up there. It's like, why are you still getting nervous? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But it is what it is.
Do you feel nerve, Dan? Because
I don't.
You've been doing it a lot, and you do it almost every weekend.
There are times where I get very nervous, and there are other times where there's not a single nervousness about it. And I'll try to analyze the difference between those times, and I've kind of got it figured out. And if I'm not careful with my mindset of who I'm reliant on, I get nervous. So if I'm relying on me, for instance, if I've made a plan in my mind, I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, I'm going to talk about this, and oh yeah, we're going to do this song, we're going to do this song, we're going to do this song," and we put it in play, I tend to get very nervous. Mm-hmm. But when I sit back and go, "Okay, no, Holy Spirit, whatever you want, guide me, guide how I pick these songs, or guide how the team does this song, guide us in this together, guide us, place our steps, place your will, your will, your will, your will." The nervousness tends to go right out the door, and I don't even think about it because all I'm thinking about in the moment is being sensitive to His voice and sensitive to what the Holy Spirit might be trying to do. It just takes me out of the equation.
Yeah. When I was talking to, the school. I'm going back to the school. Sorry, with Ashley when she did.
School's awesome.
When she did the thing, I was talking to her at CrossFit, and she said, "When I was doing that, I don't remember what I said."
So just tell what the thing was, because people don't know.
Okay, so she was doing the piano. He had her get on the piano and play some keys, and he was just talking to some of the students, and then eventually he just said, "Ashley, what is the Holy Spirit asking you? Like over Dan? Like speak over Dan." And she was like, what? And finally she would. And then another student. And as she was playing the pianos and was, prophesying over the students. And I was talking to her, and she's like, I don't remember nothing that I said. And that sometimes happens to me when when I allow them, when it's not my flesh up there, and it's the Spirit. I don't remember. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, you did so good." I'm like, I don't even remember what I said. Like, even with prayer, I prayed over somebody a couple weeks ago for the first time, and I couldn't even tell you what I prayed about. I have no idea.
Right?
Why is that? Do you have the answer for that, or no?
Why can't you remember?
Yeah, it's just like I actually couldn't remember, and I was like, wait a minute, that happens to me too. I can't.
I think one of the reasons we don't remember, because that happens to me too. Like, I've left many times and not really remember what I've said. I've talked about things in this podcast and not remember what I said. I think when we disengage the mind and engage the Spirit, the mind is just kind of, it's doing the mechanics to make us speak, make us talk, but the Holy Spirit's speaking through us.
Right.
And sometimes we don't retain that thing, because it's like it's not an out-of-body experience, but it's kind of similar in the regard of, yielding to His voice and letting Him take over. But sometimes we might not remember that. Yeah. It's just, I think it's part of it. I think that's a good thing.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, I think it's a good thing, and I think it's probably the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
For one, God knows if we might overanalyze everything and be like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Good. Well, we're getting close to the end, Josh, and I got to ask you the famous question.
Okay.
There's a listener out there that's maybe says, I kind of got the same story.
Yep.
What is something you need to pour into them? What is something you can give them some hope? What is your message for them?
The message is just, don't give up. Keep going, keep fighting, keep living your life. Trust that God is there for you. And God says He'll never leave you or forsake you. And He is right there by your side. No matter how much you think you're hurting, no matter how far gone you think, no much pain you're feeling, God is right there. The only thing that we're promised is God's love. He never leave us, forsake us. God's there. We're going to have trials. We're going to have things. It doesn't say if.
Absolutely.
It's when. We're going to go through things. And some of them are self-inflicted. But that's okay. God knew you before you were born. He knew you were. He knew your name. And He still sent His Son to die for you. And that should carry some weight. That should give you some peace. Might not make it feel better right then. It might not change what's going on in your life. But knowing that, hey, it's okay. God loves you. Ask for forgiveness. Move on. Forgive yourself. Whatever's going on in your life. There's different things. There's different things in pain, but God is there for you. He's just don't lose hope. I'd say just don't lose hope, because it's a wonderful thing to really know that God loves you and He was there for you no matter what you do, no matter how much pain you've caused. He loves you.
It's good.
Josh, it's always fun to sit down and talk, but I'm really excited about this, to get your story out and the healing that'll bring, and just an avenue of ministry that we're thankful to live in this time where we can sit in a room and record this and let people hear from God through it. So thank you a lot, and
thank y'all for having me. I appreciate you.
Yes.
It's not easy, being in that seat. It really is not. So
he doesn't even know. He doesn't even.
I've
know
never been
in that seat.
So I've only got to ask the questions.
He's
I haven't been in that seat either. So
we don't know, but it's
but it's okay. I mean, it's not. It's a good place, because you get to tell God's love and God's grace and God's compassion for you, and it's a good thing. So,
God is
thank
good.
you so much, man.
Appreciate
Thank you,
y'all.
man.
Yeah, love you, brother.
Love you too.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.